chosen one, tomorrow, something you have been carrying ends. Not because of luck, not because a season finally decided to be kind to you. It ends because of a decision you made, quietly, that you did not know at the time was a decree. I need to say this clearly, because the warning in this message is real, and I am not going to soften it into something vague. Something is closing in the next 24 hours. But before fear tells you what that means, let me tell you what it actually means, because those two things are not the same. This is not a warning aimed at you. It is a warning aimed for you, about something that has already lost its power to hurt you, whether it knows that yet or not. There is a difference between an ending that takes something from you and an ending that finally lets you put something down. What closes tomorrow is the second kind, and I need you to hold on to that while the rest of this unfolds. Here is what almost nobody says about closures like this one. You have been taught, maybe your whole life, to wait for things to happen to you, to be the one things are done for, decided about, delivered to. Tomorrow proves something different, something most people never get shown so plainly. Something is closing not because it happened to you, but because of what you already did. There was a moment, maybe one you barely remember, where you chose faithfulness when it would have been easier not to, where you kept showing up when nothing visible confirmed it mattered. That moment did not disappear into nothing. It became a decree, ticking quietly toward tomorrow, whether you believed it was doing anything or not. So here are the stakes, plainly. Tomorrow you are either one more day into carrying a weight you already had the power to put down, still bracing against an ending you have been told to fear, or you are one day away from watching a completion happen that you personally set into motion and never got to see the mechanics of, until now. 3 signs tell you a warning like this is actually a countdown to completion and not collapse. And I am going to give you every one of them, because 2 of them are already true for you, right now, whether or not you have noticed. If your chest has felt tight this week for no reason you could explain, stay, because that tightness was never dread. It was your spirit sensing a countdown closing, finally, in your favor. If you can already feel that this message is not the warning it appears to be on the surface, type "not against me" right now, before you keep listening, and let that be the first thing you get right about tomorrow. Let us look honestly at the surface of this for a moment, because I do not want to skip past what your first reaction probably was. Warning symbols. A deadline. The phrase, "it all comes to an end." Read quickly. That sentence sounds like a threat, and if you read it that way first, you are not wrong to have felt your stomach tighten. Most messages that use those words are aimed at fear, at urgency built on shame, at making you scared enough to act without understanding. This message is not that. Read it again, slower this time. It all comes to an end tomorrow, because of what you have done, not despite what you have done, not regardless of you, because of you. That single word, because, changes the entire architecture of the sentence, and it is the word almost everyone skims past on the way to the part that scares them. Here is the deeper layer underneath the surface warning. Endings only feel like threats when we believe we are passive in them, when we believe things simply happen to us and we absorb whatever arrives. But you have not been passive in this. Somewhere in the recent past, in a moment you may not even remember clearly, you made a choice that mattered more than you knew at the time. Maybe it was the day you forgave someone who never apologized, not because they deserved it, but because carrying the resentment was costing you more than releasing it. Maybe it was the week you kept a promise to yourself that no one else would have noticed if you broke. Maybe it was the moment you chose to trust one more time after every instinct told you to close off completely. Whatever it was, it registered somewhere beyond what you could see, the way a single vote registers in a count long before the results are announced. If that sounds too small to have caused something as large as a countdown, understand this. Heaven has never measured the size of an act by how it looked from the outside. It measures it by what it cost the person doing it, and by what it required them to overcome internally to do it at all. Small, unnoticed obedience often costs the most and registers the loudest. This is where the deeper mystery opens, because if a private, unnoticed choice can set a countdown into motion, the real question is not what is ending tomorrow. The real question is, what specific choice of yours set the clock running, and whether you would even recognize it if I described it to you directly. If you already have a sense of what that moment was, even a flicker of it, comment, "I know the moment," so someone else scrolling past remembers theirs too, the one they thought no one saw. Let me widen this out, because the pattern here is bigger than one choice or one countdown. This is how the entire economy of faithfulness actually works, and almost nobody explains it plainly. Every act of obedience done without an audience, every moment of integrity chosen when it would have been easier and safer to choose otherwise, gets logged somewhere you cannot see, on a ledger that does not run on your timeline, but on a timeline that eventually intersects with yours in exact, dated moments. Tomorrow is one of those intersections. There is a name for this ledger, and I want to give it to you now, because once something is named, you start noticing it operating in your own life, instead of only hearing about it happening to someone else. We will call it the Tomorrow Ledger. The Tomorrow Ledger does not track your circumstances. It tracks your obedience, your faithfulness in the dark, and it settles on its own schedule, not on the schedule your anxiety would prefer. Here is the plot twist underneath everything you have heard so far. You assumed, reasonably, that a message with warning language in the title was describing something being done to you. The truth is closer to the opposite. You have been the one doing something, all along, in every quiet moment of integrity you thought went completely unnoticed, and tomorrow is simply the day the Tomorrow Ledger settles in your favor because of it. This reframes the entire warning. It was never a threat aimed at your future. It was an announcement that your past faithfulness has reached its maturity date. The way a seed reaches the exact day it is finally ready to break its shell. Not a day earlier, not a day later, but precisely when the internal process completes. I want you to see this clearly, because seeing it changes how you carry the next 24 hours. Picture tomorrow evening, sitting in whatever room you are usually in at that hour. Notice, in this picture, that something which has weighed on you is simply not weighing anymore. Not because you finally solved it through more effort, because the ledger settled, and settling looks like relief, arriving from a direction you were not managing at all. Notice something else in that picture. You are not bracing for the next blow the way you have been bracing for months. There is a stillness in your body that was not available to you before, because part of what closes tomorrow is not only a circumstance, it is the exhausting vigilance you have been carrying around, whether your faithfulness even mattered. If you can already feel that stillness reaching toward you, even faintly, type, "I receive the settling," and let it be the first sign you actually believe this ledger is real, and it is closing in your favor. But here is what most messages about closures like this one never say. Knowing the ledger settled is only half of what you need. Without what comes next, that knowledge will work at a fraction of its capacity, because knowing you caused something good and knowing how to carry a mind clear enough to walk into it are two very different things. There is something I have been holding back, waiting for the right moment to name, and this is that moment. While the Tomorrow Ledger has been settling in the background, something else has been quietly making its way toward you, something built for exactly this stage. The stage right after obedience finally matures into a visible result, and the mind needs to be clear enough to actually recognize and use what arrives. I am not going to explain it fully yet. I only want to plant it here, because you will need it named completely a little later. For now, here is the second sign that a warning like this is actually a countdown to completion. When an ending is genuine loss, your mind spirals backward, replaying what you could have done differently. When an ending is a ledger settling, your mind starts drifting forward instead, toward decisions you have not needed to make in a long time, decisions that assume things are about to open up rather than close down. If you have caught your thoughts drifting toward a future you had stopped planning for, that is sign 2, and it is already active in you. Here is the third sign, the one that matters most. A real loss makes people around you notice tension rising in you the closer the date gets. A ledger settling does the opposite. People close to you may have already commented, without knowing why, that you seem calmer this week, steadier, like something shifted before anything visible changed. That calm is not denial. That is the ledger closing early in your spirit, before it closes visibly in your circumstances. So here is the plain truth of what tomorrow actually is, said without metaphor. It is not an ending being done to you. It is a ledger of quiet faithfulness, reaching its maturity date. And what closes is the waiting attached to it, not the good thing itself. What you built in the dark is about to be visible in the light, and the only thing left to determine now is whether your mind is clear enough to walk into it without the old bracing still running in the background. That was who you had to be to survive, not knowing if any of it mattered. That is not who you are required to stay. Now that you know the tomorrow ledger is real, I want to give you something practical, because knowing a ledger exists does you little good if you cannot recognize when you are making an entry into it. Here are the moments that count most, the ones that quietly become decrees whether you notice them or not. The first is any choice made when no one would have known if you chose differently. Integrity performed for an audience is good, but it does not carry the same weight as integrity chosen in a room with no one watching. If you have made that kind of choice recently, even once, mark it. That is an entry. The second is forgiveness extended before an apology arrived, sometimes before it ever will. This is one of the heaviest entries, the ledger records, because it costs the most and asks for nothing in return. If you have released someone who never earned it, that is not weakness. That is one of the largest deposits a person can make. The third is showing up faithfully to something small and unglamorous, day after day, with no evidence it was building toward anything. Prayer that felt unheard. Discipline that felt pointless. Kindness extended to someone who never reciprocated it. These are the entries that accumulate the quietest and settle the loudest, because they were made entirely on trust, with no visible proof at the time that trust was justified. I want you to think back over the last several months and identify at least one moment from each of these 3 categories. You do not need to say it out loud. You only need to let yourself recognize it, because recognition is itself a form of receiving what the ledger is about to release. People who cannot name their own faithfulness often struggle to receive its results, not because they were not faithful, but because they never let themselves see it clearly enough to expect anything from it. This is the piece almost every message about breakthrough skips entirely. Breakthrough is not random, and it is not purely a gift dropped from nowhere. It is frequently a settlement, a return on something deposited quietly, over time, by a person who mostly forgot they were even making deposits. Tomorrow is a settlement day. Let yourself actually expect it, rather than being surprised by it after the fact, the way so many people are, missing the very thing they spent months building because they never let themselves believe they were building anything at all. The name of what I have been holding back is the genius switch, and I want to explain why it belongs in this exact chapter of your story, not as a sales pitch, only as something I would feel wrong not mentioning to someone standing where you are standing right now. Decades of research into how the brain organizes itself, going back to Nobel Prize-winning work from Dr. Roger Sperry on the 2 hemispheres of the mind, eventually reached a New York City neurologist named Dr. Daniel Barone, who noticed something specific in patients coming out of long, demanding seasons. The ones who came out sharp, decisive, able to receive good news and actually act on it, had one thing in common. Their 2 hemispheres were working in sync. The ones who came out foggy, hesitant, unable to trust. Even obvious good outcomes did not. The Genius Switch is an 8-minute audio sequence designed to help restore that sync gently, while you simply sit with your eyes closed and let it work. Nothing to force, nothing to memorize. It works beneath your conscious awareness, the same way your body knows how to heal a wound without you supervising each stage of the process. A woman from California put it simply. She said life had been happening to her for years, and she could not tell if her faithfulness was making any difference at all. 10 days into listening, she said something cleared, like a channel that had been blocked was suddenly open, and she started noticing good things she would have missed entirely before, simply because her mind was clear enough to register them. A woman from Manhattan, whose family had quietly believed in a kind of bad luck passed down through generations, said something different happened for her. Promotions that always seemed to fall through finally landed. Romance she had given up on returned. What she had called a family pattern, she said, turned out to have a neurological address instead of a spiritual sentence. That is because of what the team Dr. Barone leads spent years building, offered at a fraction of comparable approaches. Sessions using similar in-person technology commonly run several $100s an hour, sometimes thousands for home equipment. The Genius Switch was originally offered near $500, an amount colleagues of Dr. Barone called an understatement of its value. It was brought down to $49 to reach more people, and today, on this page specifically, it is available for $39, backed by an ironclad money-back guarantee, with no limit on how many times you can listen before deciding. I want to be honest about something else, because a real messenger warns as much as they offer. Imitations of this idea exist scattered across places it was never meant to be sold. Those are not the same thing, and they do not carry years of research behind them the way this does. This is not for everyone hearing this today. It is for the chosen one whose ledger just settled and whose mind now needs to be as clear as their spirit is steady. If that is you, the link is in the description and the pinned comment. Only if this genuinely resonates with where you are. What the Genius Switch restores is not a mood. It restores the clarity to actually recognize what your faithfulness already caused, instead of missing it out of habit. Let me bring all of this together now, because a mystery is not finished until it is integrated, not just solved. What looked, at first glance, like a threat aimed at you was never that. It was an announcement that a ledger of quiet obedience, kept in a place you could not audit, has reached its maturity date. What ends tomorrow is not your breakthrough. It is the waiting attached to it, the bracing, the vigilance, the exhausting habit of wondering if any of it mattered. It mattered. Every unnoticed choice, every moment of integrity nobody applauded, every act of faithfulness you assumed vanished into silence, was logged, and tomorrow it settles. You are not a passive recipient of whatever tomorrow brings. You are the reason tomorrow exists at all in this specific shape. I want to pause here and give you a moment of rest, because everything we have covered today is heavy in the best possible way, and heavy things deserve a breath before we close. Take a moment, wherever you are, and simply notice that you do not have to solve anything else today. The ledger is not waiting on more effort from you. It already has what it needs. Your only task right now is to receive that quietly. Before this message ends, I want to ask you for one small thing. Somewhere right now, someone is bracing for an ending they believe is loss, convinced their private faithfulness never mattered to anyone, terrified that tomorrow means something is being taken instead of settled. Maybe it is someone who has been quietly obedient for years without a single visible result to show for it. If someone like that came to mind while I described them, send this to them now, before you forget, the way you would hand someone a letter they have been waiting years to receive. And if any part of this reached the place in you it was meant to reach, gently press like, not for me. But so this reaches one more person whose ledger is closer to settling than they know. Let us close this together, in stillness, Take one slow breath in and let it out even slower. Feel whatever you have still been bracing against, and notice that the bracing has nowhere left to attach itself, because the thing it was protecting you from has already been settled in your favor. I release the fear that my faithfulness went unnoticed. I release the vigilance I no longer need to carry into tomorrow. I release the belief that endings only ever mean loss. I release the habit of waiting for permission to trust that something good is closing in on me. You are not someone things simply happen to. You are someone whose obedience moves timelines, whose quiet faithfulness writes entries onto a ledger that settles on its own schedule, exactly when it is ready, not a day early, not a day late. Tomorrow is proof of that, and every faithful choice you make from here forward is already writing the next one. If everything spoken today has been true for you, type "it is settled" and let it close. The fear this warning first opened in you, replacing it with the truth underneath it. I am someone whose faithfulness matters, even when no one is watching. I am someone whose ledger settles on schedule. I am the reason, not just the recipient. I am ready to receive what tomorrow was always going to bring. And so it is.